My daughter moved in with my ex and his new wife telling me coldly, they can give me a better life than you ever could. She blocked me for years. Then one day she called sweetly saying, Mom, I need you to sign over Grandma's vacation home to me. When I said no, she screamed, you owe me. But my next move left her speechless. My daughter Sarah was everything to me. I raised her on my own after my ex-husband Dan left us for a younger woman, Claire. We lived in a small but cozy apartment in Brooklyn. I worked long hours as a nurse to give Sarah everything she needed. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. When Sarah turned 16, everything changed. She started spending more time with Dan and Claire in their fancy Upper East Side condo. I couldn't compete with their wealth. Claire didn't have kids of her own, and she loved playing the cool stepmom. Shopping sprees, spa days, expensive vacations, Sarah was hooked. Then came the day that shattered me. Sarah sat across from me at our tiny kitchen table, her arms crossed. She was calm, too calm. I knew something was coming. I'm moving in with Dad and Claire, she said. My heart dropped. Sarah, we've talked about this. I know they have money, but she cut me off. They can give me a better life than you ever could. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. Sarah, I love you. I've given you everything I have. She shrugged. It's not enough. She packed her things that night. By the next morning she was gone. At first she'd answer my texts occasionally, but after a few months she blocked me. I wasn't her mother anymore. I was just a memory, a part of her life she had outgrown. I cried myself to sleep for months. Holidays were unbearable. I'd check her social media through a friend's account and see pictures of her in Paris wearing designer clothes, smiling with her perfect family. Claire posted gushing captions, family is who loves you the most. Sarah called Claire mom in the comments. That one nearly destroyed me. Years passed. I worked. I survived. I stopped crying every day. I accepted that Sarah had chosen a different life. Then, out of nowhere, my phone rang. Mom? I nearly dropped the phone. I hadn't heard her voice in years. Sarah? Hey, how are you? Her voice was sweet, too sweet. I knew something was up. I'm fine, I said carefully. What's going on? Well, she said, dragging out the word. I was thinking about Grandma's vacation house in Cape Cod. My mother had left me that house. It wasn't huge, but it was beautiful, right on the water, quiet, peaceful. I spent summers there as a kid, and I always imagined passing it down to Sarah someday. I want to move there, she said. Claire and Dad are helping me with some business stuff, and it would be perfect for me. I just need you to sign it over to me. I felt a sick sort of déjà vu. Another conversation, another rejection. No, I said simply. Her fake sweetness vanished. What? Why not? Because it's mine, she scoffed. Mom, you don't even use it. You live in that tiny apartment. You don't need a whole house. I do use it, I said. And even if I didn't, that doesn't mean it belongs to you. Mom, don't be selfish, she snapped. You owe me. I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes out when you realize someone you love never loved you back in the same way. I owe you, I repeated. Sarah, I worked myself to the bone for you. I gave you everything I had and you threw me away. You didn't just leave. You blocked me for years. Now suddenly you want something and I owe you. There was silence. Then she said, I was just a kid. You were 16. You knew what you were doing. You can't just hold a grudge forever, she whined. I'm not, I said. I'm just saying no. Her voice turned cold. Fine. If you won't give it to me, I'll take it. I hung up. She wasn't bluffing. A week later I got a letter from a lawyer. Sarah was contesting my ownership of the house, claiming my mother had intended for it to go to her. She had no real case, but that didn't mean she wouldn't try. And that's when I made my move. I didn't just fight back. I went nuclear. I took a deep breath and stared at the letter from the lawyer. Sarah wasn't just asking. She was threatening. She had no case, but that didn't mean she couldn't make my life miserable trying to take what was mine. Legal battles are expensive even when you're in the right. I knew how this worked. So I did what any mother would do when faced with a child who had turned into a stranger. I got ahead of her. The counterattack first, I called my own lawyer, Mr. Callahan. He had been handling my family's affairs for years. He was calm, steady. She has no legal standing, he said, but she can drag this out if she wants to. You need to be ready. I'm ready, I said. The next day I drove to Cape Cod. The house sat on a quiet beach, the waves crashing just a few yards from the back porch. The salty air always made me feel at peace, but that day my heart was pounding. I changed the locks. I reinforced the doors. Then I did something that would make Sarah furious. I moved in. Sarah wanted the house? Well, now she'd have to rip it out of my hands while I was living in it. The first battle 3 days later, I heard tires crunching on the gravel driveway. I looked out the window and saw a sleek black car. Sarah stepped out, looking polished and expensive, like a stranger wearing my daughter's face. Her blonde hair was styled in waves, her nails perfectly manicured. She didn't look like the girl I raised. She looked like them. I opened the door before she could knock. What are you doing here? I asked. She looked past me like she already owned the place. Mom, we need to talk. No, we don't. She blanked. Excuse me? I said no. I repeated. We're done talking. Sarah scoffed. Are you serious? This is my house. I left. No, it's mine. She folded her arms. You're making this harder than it has to be. And you're making it very easy for me to remember why I stopped waiting for you to come back, I said. You don't get to walk back into my life and demand things from me. Her jaw clenched. This isn't over. I shut the door in her face. The war escalates. Sarah didn't give up. She sent more legal threats, each one more desperate than the last. I ignored them. Then one night I woke up to my phone vibrating, a text from a number I didn't recognize. You're making a mistake. A few minutes later, another text. Claire has connections. You can't win. I stared at the screen. This wasn't just Sarah anymore. Claire was involved. That's when I knew things were about to get ugly. The betrayal. A week later I went into town for groceries. When I came back, something was off. I stepped inside and immediately noticed it. The faint smell of expensive perfume, the kind Claire wore. Someone had been in my house. My hands shook as I checked the back door. It was locked, but something felt wrong. Then I saw it. A single wine glass on the kitchen counter. Not mine. I grabbed my phone and called Mr. Callahan. Someone's been in my house, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. They didn't take anything, but they were here. Get a security system, he said. Now I took his advice. Cameras, motion detectors, an alarm system that would alert the police if anyone tried to break in again. Sarah didn't just want the house, she wanted to scare me out of it. But they underestimated me. The breaking point: the next time Sarah showed up, she wasn't alone. Claire stood beside her, her designer sunglasses perched on top of her head like a crown. Dan was behind them, looking uncomfortable but silent. They came as a unit. A family, the family that replaced me. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me. What do you want? I asked. Claire spoke first. Let's be civil about this. I raised an eyebrow. Civil? Like breaking into my house? Sarah's face turned red. That was a misunderstanding. Claire smiled like I was a child throwing a tantrum. Look, dear, this place isn't right for you. You live in the city, you don't need a beach house. I left. And you do. Sarah stepped forward. Mom, I need this house. No, I said, my voice like steel. You want this house? She clenched her fists. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said. You threw me away. Now you want something and you expect me to roll over? No. Claire sighed dramatically. This is so unnecessary. Then leave, I shot back. Sarah's face twisted. Why are you being so selfish? I took a slow breath. Selfish? I repeated. You blocked me for years. You only came back when you wanted something. And now when I say no, I'm the selfish one. Silence. Then Claire made her final move. Well, she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy, if you don't sign it over, we'll have to take legal action. I smiled. A slow, dangerous smile. Oh honey, I said, my voice calm. You're gonna wish you never tried. And with that I turned and walked inside, slamming the door behind me because they didn't know what I had done next. I sat in my house, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee, staring out at the waves. My heart was still pounding from the confrontation. Sarah had changed. Claire had made sure of that, but they had no idea what they were up against. The next move, I wasn't just sitting around waiting for them to attack. I had already made my move. See, my mother wasn't just sentimental, she was smart. She knew there might be trouble one day, so she set things up carefully. The Cape Cod house wasn't in my name. It was in a trust that Sarah had no legal claim to. The day after Sarah's first phone call, I had gone straight to my lawyer and secured the paperwork. The house was now locked under a lifetime trust, meaning it was mine to live in until the day I died, and then it would go to charity. Not Sarah, not Claire, not anyone who thought they could take it from me. They could threaten all they wanted. It was already out of their reach. I just hadn't told them yet. The fig out a week passed with no word. I knew they were up to something and I was right. One afternoon I got a letter. This one wasn't from Sarah's lawyer. It was from mine. A forged letter pretending to be from Mr. Callahan, claiming that I had agreed to transfer ownership of the house to Sarah. It was laughably bad, sloppy language, wrong signature, even the wrong address for the law office. But the message was clear. They were getting desperate. I took the letter straight to Mr. Callahan. He took one look at it and sighed. They think you're stupid, he said. They think they can bully me into walking away, I corrected. He nodded. We could press charges for fraud. I considered it, but I wasn't ready to make my final move yet. I wanted them to dig their own graves first, so I played along. I called Sarah. Got your letter, I said, keeping my voice neutral. She sounded almost smug. Good. I knew you'd come around. Meet me at the house, I said. We'll talk. The trap that night, Sarah, Claire, and Dan showed up. Claire was smiling like she had already won. Sarah looked triumphant. I played my part well. You win, I sighed, standing on the porch. You want the house? It's yours. Sarah's eyes lit up. Really? On one condition. Claire narrowed her eyes. What condition? I pulled out a document. I had my lawyer prepare the transfer papers, I said. All you have to do is sign this first. Sarah grabbed it eagerly. Claire glanced at it, then her face turned pale because it wasn't a transfer of ownership. It was a confession of fraud. By signing it, Sarah would be admitting to the fake legal letter, attempted coercion, and fraudulently claiming ownership of property she had no right to. And that was a felony. Claire snatched it from Sarah's hands and ripped it in half. You think you're so smart? She hissed. I don't think I said, smiling. I know. Dan, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke. This has gone too far, he muttered. Sarah, let's just go. But Sarah wasn't backing down. You can't do this to me, she shrieked. I deserve this house. You owe me. You owe me for being a terrible mother. I had never felt more at peace than I did in that moment. I looked her dead in the eye and said, I don't owe you anything. Then I turned and walked back inside, locking the door behind me because this wasn't over. They had one last move left to play, and I was already 3 steps ahead. The final move. For days I waited. I knew they wouldn't give up easily. People like Claire didn't just walk away when they didn't get what they wanted. Sarah had been raised in privilege ever since she left me, and she had learned one thing well. If you push hard enough, people will cave. But I wasn't people. When the next move came, I wasn't surprised. I was ready. It started with a phone call from Dan. The unexpected plea. Hey, he said, his voice quieter than usual. Can we talk? I frowned. Dan had barely spoken to me since Sarah left all those years ago. What's this about? I didn't know things had gone this far, he admitted. I knew Claire was pushing for the house, but I didn't know about the fake letter until after the fact. I didn't respond. He sighed. Look, I'm not proud of how things have gone down. I should have stopped this sooner, but I need you to know, Sarah isn't doing this just because she's greedy. I almost laughed. Oh, what exactly is she doing this for? Dan hesitated, then he dropped the bomb. Claire and I, we're getting a divorce. The words hung in the air. She's kicking Sarah out, he said. Sarah has nowhere to go. I felt the shock pass through me like a slow-moving wave. I leaned against the kitchen counter, gripping the edge so hard my fingers hurt. She's being cut off? I asked, my voice hollow. Dan exhaled. Yeah, Claire's done with her. She said she was fine having a stepdaughter when Sarah was a kid, but now she's an adult. She doesn't want to deal with her anymore. I swallowed, trying to process this. After all these years, after replacing me, Sarah was being discarded the same way she had discarded me. I should have felt pity. I should have felt something other than cold, hard reality settling in. Instead, I just said, that's not my problem. The confrontation later that night, there was pounding on my front door. I opened it to find Sarah standing there, disheveled, her makeup smeared from crying. Her usual perfect appearance was gone. Can I come in? She whispered. I stared at her. Why? She sniffed, her lip trembling. Because I have nowhere else to go. I let out a slow breath. You still have your dad. She let out a bitter laugh. Dad's pathetic. Claire took everything. She has more money, more lawyers. He's practically homeless himself. I made a mistake. She looked at me then, really looked at me, as if for the first time in years. I thought she loved me, she said, voice breaking. She always told me I was her real daughter, but the second she didn't need me anymore, she tossed me aside like I was nothing. I crossed my arms, and now you know how it feels. She flinched. For a long moment we just stood there. Then she wiped her nose and whispered, I deserve that. The breaking point, something in me cracked. I let her inside. She sat on my couch, shoulders hunched, looking small, so different from the arrogant girl who had demanded my house weeks ago. I was awful to you, she admitted. I blocked you. I ignored you for years. I let Claire tell me you were less. She met my eyes, pleading. I thought she was better than you. I thought I was better than you. Tears slid down her face. I was wrong. I closed my eyes. The anger, the betrayal, it was all still there. You hurt me, I said. More than you will ever understand. Sarah nodded. I know. I took a shaky breath. You can stay here. Her head snapped up, hope flashing in her eyes. But you are not getting this house, I said firmly. And you are not stepping into my life just because you need something. A tear dripped onto her lap. She nodded. I understand. I wasn't sure she did, not yet. But maybe, just maybe, she would. Sarah stayed the night. For the first time in years I saw glimpses of the girl I had raised, the one before Claire, before the money. She wasn't magically fixed. I wasn't either. The next morning over coffee she whispered, Do you think you could ever forgive me? I didn't answer right away. Forgiveness wasn't a light switch. It wasn't something you handed out like a party favor. I don't know, I admitted. But I think I'm willing to try. Sarah gave a small broken smile. And for the first time in years I felt something close to hope. The lesson: people don't always come back the way you want them to. Sometimes they only return after they've lost everything. Sometimes they're too late. And sometimes, just sometimes, you let them back in, not because you forget, not because they deserve it, but because you choose to. And that choice? That's where the real power is. The end.